What if addictions were actually habits? What if new discoveries about how the brain works helped us understand addictions and habit? Let's look at it. There is your brain with a lot of wirings. This is an example. All these connections that you have in your brain. And if you look at it, you have one that shows a little bit stronger. That's what we call a habit in my world. And how does a habit form? Well, we have something that triggers us, and then we react. And every time we get triggered, we immediately react. Something happens, and we're going to go get a cigarette or a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, or we're going to go on our computer. There's a trigger that triggers an emotion, and then immediately we have a behavior that starts. So, what can we do about it? Well, we can put a roadblock between the trigger and the addictive behavior. Take a detour if you want and build another road, another path for that trigger. There was old paths. The way that we are being triggered, it's like a freeway. We go on it and we zip along, and it's trigger reaction, trigger reaction. Now what we want to do is build another road. We're going to take that detour and start build a strong connection between a trigger and a better way of handling it. And eventually that freeway is going to be overgrown with grass. We're not even going to go there. The trigger is not going to trigger us any longer. That's what we want, not to have that trigger any longer. So as soon as we feel an urge of doing something, we get triggered, we stop. You can even stop in your steps. A few years ago, I learned a technique that calls freeze frame. You start thinking something that is not positive, or you reach for something that you want to stop, freeze. And then we're going to put a roadblock and detour that highway. How do we do that? We often talk about two parts in our brain, the right brain, the left brain. The right brain is more about imagination, seeing the whole picture, and the left brain is more logical. It's about math, it's about language. And when a thought happens, a lot of time it's in the imagination and it triggers us. And it only lasts 90 seconds. So during these 90 seconds, or immediately when the thought happens, you want to stop it before it starts to be into gears where you reach for something, where you do something you want to stop. You need to stop it immediately. Put a roadblock. And here I'm going to give you one little trick how to do a roadblock. It's about crossing the midline, going from left brain to right brain, back and forth. You can take a ball or a bottle or whatever you have close by. I happen to not have my ball around me. And then we're going to go and pass that object back and forth, crossing the midline until that trigger gets more peaceful and disappears. So we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that starts to diminish the power of that trigger. You have to do it immediately when you feel like you're going to reach out for something, reach out for that pack of cigarettes, reach out for a glass to pour some wine, reach out to your phone so you can check your email or get on a game. As soon as you have that impulse, stop, freeze frame, and put a roadblock. Start doing that movement. And if you don't have anything, you can also just do it with your eyes. Back and forth and back and forth and back. Focus on your eyes. Back and forth. Put your attention on your eyes. Check what you see on the periphery as you move. Just crossing the midline is important. There are dozens of self-directed neuroplasticity techniques. Neuroplasticity means you can change the wiring of the brain. Instead of trigger and immediately go somewhere in a direction you used to, the trigger, you do a detour until you don't have a trigger anymore. So I can believe people can do this. So how about you? Can you say I can and I will? even go further and say, I must do that now. So we can also go deeper. If you work with me as a client, then we'll do something called interactive imagery or hypnosis. We're going to use the power of your imaginations. We're going to check where that trigger comes from. No, we're not going to relive all the gory details of your life. We don't need to do that. But we're going to go to these details and get a symbol for them and change the trigger from the onset of the symptoms. And we're going to talk about what's your story? What is it in your stories that triggers you? So we can remove the triggers. How about connecting with me? Go to my website, hha-usa.com/calendar. You can get a 20 to 30 minute of complimentary and confidential talk with me. Let's see what we can do to help you if you want to get rid of some of these triggers. I'll see you soon.